Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mark Reid here, along with my good friend
Mark McLaughlin.
Nice
to be here for episode 4.
We are on episode 4, we're on a roll, and this time we're not talking about theatre or heavy metal or even Las Vegas. We're talking about something a little bit different in terms of anything we've ever spoken about before, Mark, and something that before we've uttered it in words, for me looking at you, has been very noticeable.
Thank
and
you.
That is that you have very recently taken up the challenge of Slimming World.
Yes.
And for those that don't know, Slimming World, you're essentially looking at a form of dieting, a way of changing your relationship with food.
Yeah, Ben, that sounds like
To
a
be
stunning
very
way of putting
diplomatic about it.
Yes.
Why?
That is the question, isn't it? I essentially, when I was, this is to go too deep into it, when I was 18 and we started drinking and life was grand, and you were drinking a lot of Corona because that's what the boys were drinking. Because as you learn when you get older, Corona is essentially a very nice watered down beer, very nice light beer. And that was the only beer I would drink. I got into it because we were going on holiday and I was drinking a lot of Southern Comfort at the time. And people were like, you can't drink that in a Greek beach, it's just not happening, you need to get into beer, so I got into Corona. For years drank Corona, was quite happy with that. And then when I was about 20, 21, I think it was just before I went on a kind of trip around Europe, someone was like, right, you need to start drinking actual beer and not wee bottles of Corona. So I started drinking pints of beer. Went around Europe, discovered proper beer because you're going through Germany and all these countries and in Holland and in Italy and finding proper beers. And after 4 years of doing that, I was like, shit, I'm fat. Which I wasn't fat. And this is kind of going to be a theme through this, is that I'm not going to talk myself up here, I was never obese, I was never very, very heavy.
That's what I was going to say. I've never really known you or noticed you to be obviously overweight.
No.
And it's only at the start of this conversation, you've never been overweight, but now that I see the effort you've put in to keep yourself at a lower weight, it's very obvious to see. Yeah,
and I think basically growing up, I was very slim. My family are a slim family sort of thing. So I genetically, I should be thinner. And I've always been, throughout this Slimming World process, I've been very probably open and quite laissez-faire about the language we use and the attitude. Like, two of our friends, really, is where it comes from, is from Paul and Ross, referring to people as what we call an F-sauce or a fat sack of shit. As a derogatory term for someone we didn't like as who we didn't get along with and had their own weight issues, or perhaps were just bigger people. So I've referred to myself as a fat sack of shit. That's how I get into this.
So you saw that of yourself, so you started saying that, early 20s, were out there living it up, drinking a lot. Then you switched to heavier beers, which turns out to make you heavier over the course of 3 or 4 years. So you get to what, 25? 26, and you start to change the way you're thinking?
Probably about 24 is probably when I noticed I had a beer belly.
Okay.
And it's probably the same the gut that everybody our age had at that time, because we've been drinking for years and thinking it was fine and it wasn't. And I noticed it and was like, oh, that's a pain, but I'll drink less beer. And I'll start drinking more rums and cokes, for example. Right. And I think basically my beer belly developed and got to a point, never got bigger. I mean, my weight would probably go up and down the same way as any normal humans did. And it wasn't until my sister, who got married and had kids, and when she had her second child, her weight went up considerably, which is a change that happens when people have children. And then I think after her first kid, it had gone up and then back down to normal. After the second child, she had more trouble losing the weight, and she'd always been super skinny. Like, she was borderline. She's never anorexic, never any. I don't want to insult anyone in this podcast. I'm quite worried to a degree, because we in my family discuss weight quite casually. Like, my family have joked with me and the fat guy for years, and none of us are overweight, but we are just quite casual with the language of it. So I'm not trying to offend people who are obese or overly skinny or are trying to get into eating disorders in an offensive term. So I'd like to apologise on the outset for that. But my sister, I used to call her Fatty as a joke because she looked unhealthily thin. Right. And then eventually I couldn't make that joke anymore because she'd put on a lot of weight after having the kid. And she did Slimming World and lost it all to the point she was back at her previous thinness. I was like, man, you look unwell. Like she'd open the door to me and be like, you look like you're very unwell because the clothes are hanging off you.
Wow.
Which was a good thing because Slimming World had worked for her. And then she had another kid and she ballooned up again, as happens. So I'd kind of talked about so that kid was born about June time, and she was never huge again. But she'd talked about she was going to probably do Slimming World again. And I basically thought I'd turned 30. I'd now had this beer belly for 6 years. Yeah. I didn't need to have it. Clearly my mentality is that I had got to that level of beer belly or this weight and stayed there for 6 years. So clearly what I'm doing is healthy enough. I'd started running more or doing more fitness stuff or being more active in general or eating slightly better because I was doing less takeaways and things. As you grow up, you stop going for chippies after the dancing kind of thing, and you stop just getting fast food with your pals and stuff as much. And I thought, do you know what? It's worked for Siobhan. I'm going to lose weight. We're going to do Slim World and we'll do it together this time. So it was kind of every Thursday I go to my sister's for dinner anyway. Yeah. So the thing would be I'd go after my work, I'd go round to hers, hang out with her and the kids and the nephews, and then when her husband came in from work, we'd go out to Slimming World and do this. And it means we weren't doing it alone, we were doing it together. We'd have that kind of that camaraderie with it.
Do you feel now, having done it, would you be as successful, if I can put it that way, if you had done it on your own?
No. I'd tried to a degree before. I'd taken time off drinking. I had made large changes in not large, I thought they were large changes by buying more salad things. Yeah. I had done, years ago now, I ran a 10k, so I did a lot of training for that and done Tough Mudders and things like that. And I thought these things were helping me, but I wasn't, I don't know what my weight is. I didn't know what my weight was, and I wasn't really looking in the mirror. I was just in my head living a better lifestyle. So I was thinner. It was a mentality. I wasn't looking down and thinking, oh great, that's gone up or down in terms of the belly. I wasn't looking in the mirror and checking my bingo wings or anything. It was a mentality. I'm living healthier, therefore I'm not thinking about the fact I've got a beer belly.
Right.
Until you put on the Under Armour shirt and go, mother, these are close. Like,
yeah.
That's tight.
The
creases are outlined.
There's rolls and shapes you weren't expecting to see.
So that says to me what I was doing wasn't working. But my sister had done this programme before and it worked. So I thought, do you know what, why not? We'll do the whole new year, new me, stupid attitude. There's no point in doing it in December. You're going to eat and drink through Christmas. So we thought, you know what, let's January 3rd or 4th, whatever the day is. Let's do it. And we did. So we went along, and it's I don't want to be disparaging of Slimming World, it's helped me loads. But our attitude is quite realistic. And that.
So talk us through walking. So where did you go? Where was this close to home? So you're from?
Yeah, from East Kilbride. So it's in East Kilbride, close to my sister.
It's a local branch of this Slimming World.
And the way it works is basically it's almost like a franchise. You set up your own wee kind of thing, whatever you can. So it's around community halls or local churches. Yeah. Ours is in a pub. Honestly, we go to a pub.
So you're trying to get away from the lifestyle of drinking heavy beer and getting heavier as a result, and you're in Slimming World in a pub.
So it's in the lounge area, and they're obviously not serving. Maybe not obviously, but they're not serving. And it's great because the girl who runs our club talks a lot about drink, because there's a massive drinking culture in Scotland. We do it casually, and you're sitting, she's talking about losing weight and choosing your tipples wisely and avoiding alcohol, and you're looking at the Tennent's tap and the Belhaven tap. And
someone buys their pork scratching.
Yeah, it's hilarious that we're sitting in a pub doing this. But it's just the space you have available to you that your franchisor chooses, I suppose. And it's a very positive environment. And again, as I say, we don't treat it with the respect it's due, I suppose. They talk about how it's not a diet, it's a mentality, it's the way you look at your life, and it is a diet plan. We're not being paid by Slimming World here. It is a change of the way you eat.
As every diet is.
Which is a diet.
Yeah.
It's not eating less, which is what some diets are viewed as you can't have things. You can eat as much as you want, and it's just they call it food optimizing. choosing what you want to eat and how you want to eat it.
Right.
So the very basis of Slimming World comes from, it's built around what are called free foods, speed free foods, and SINs, which is SYN. Basically, a sin in life is a bad thing. A sin in Slimming World is a bad thing. I think they say it with a Y so they can trademark it.
So say that again, you've got SINs and...
Free foods and speed free foods.
So maybe as a way to get into what each of those are, can you describe your Mark McLaughlin, 25 to 30 years old diet before Slimming World, in terms of these terms?
Yeah, so basically I would have, I live fairly normally, fairly healthy. Quite a lot of pasta and pizza meals, a lot of chicken and rice, things like that.
Okay.
A lot of curries, I'm big on making curries. But to take one of those normal, say like a normal homemade tikka masala, like not from a jar, then the oil that you start off with is, I think, I'm terrible at the sin values of things, say 3 to 4 sins per tablespoon of oil you put in at the start of a pan, right?
So oil is a sin.
Oil is a sin. Quite a high sin, because if you think of you're allowed 15 sins a day. 4 of those are going on your tablespoon of oil into your meal, right?
Wow.
And then in that you have your vegetables. Vegetables are all free food. Fruit and veg is all free, apart from avocados. They're the devil, which is hilarious in this hipster climate where avocados are everyone's favourite. They're like one of the only vegetables that are sin because they're full of natural fats.
Right.
And it's just choosing your fats wisely. So veg is all free, essentially. But then if you're making a sauce and you're using, say, flour to make that sauce or oil to make that sauce, they're both sins. Say you then add in chicken. Chicken's free. But if there's fat on it, you've got to trim all the fat off it, which is fine because you probably would with chicken. But see, even those wee white bits you'd leave on, I don't anymore. I always would just cut up a chicken breast and fling it in. But now the bits that are bloody and grimy and fatty, I didn't used to cut them off. Some folk do because they're like, oh, it's blood. I never cared. It's more food. Fling it in.
Well, maybe the more obvious thing on chicken would be the skin.
Yep, chicken skins are sin. So if you're having drumsticks, you have to peel them before you make them. If you're making
no crispy skin?
No, none of that at all. So if you're making a roast chicken, you have to peel the skin off before you cook it, because if you cook it with the skin on, I think the oils all get involved. And oil's a huge one in cooking. I know use the fry light sprays that you get. So that was which I'd been using because Siobhan had talked about it previously, and I thought that's a small change I can make. But when that runs out, you tweak out the vegetable oil, you don't care.
So spraying a small amount of oil into the pan rather than pouring it in.
Yeah, exactly. And it's these fry light sprays, like 1 calorie a spray or whatever, right? And it's probably not real oil. It's probably synthetic in some way. But fuck it, it's free basically. And then when you've got your curry out, you might have a wee side salad. That's fine, unless you put a dressing on it. Dressings are the devil. Like, honestly, for example, see when you go to Subway and you get like Southwest Chipotle, one dose of that in your sandwich is like 5 or 6 sins just for the sauce.
Right. 5 or 6 in one sandwich? Yes.
Just for the sauce. You want naan bread? No, you don't. Bread is full of sins because it's got flour in it and it's whatever else is in it. So if you want naan with that, a wee chapati poppadoms, nah mate, it's not happening. Crisps, no chance. And you think, no, if I'm having like maybe some spiced onions, if you go out for Indian, wee spiced onions, there's sauce in that, thus it's sinful. So your average, say, curry would be maybe 15 or 16 cents. If you're buying it from an Indian, think of the oil and the fat content in those, it's awful.
So it sounds like the first thing that's happened here is that you've started to look at the food that you eat and turn it into a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
These are all made up of different combinations of free foods, speed free foods and sins, right? And you started to realise that there was a lot more sins in the food that you were eating.
And everything. I mean, the one thing I missed, I went at second or third week at group. It's called group, which makes you feel like you're going to Alcoholics Anonymous. It tickles me that you're just like, oh, I'm going to group. Like, you don't talk about what group is.
First rule of group.
yeah, that's what it feels like. It does. It's funny. But I was like, I miss crisps. Like, I'm not a big sweet eater, I'm not a big chocolate eater, but I miss crisps. And the guy who works the kind of money side of things is our host. I don't know whether I should have Claire. Claire's husband was like, Space Raiders, mate. 3 cents a pack of Space Raiders. Skips are 5 cents. And that's the best, because you're allowed 15 cents. It's just choosing how you're going to have them.
Right.
So I'm allowed crisps. I could have 5 packs of crisps a day, which is brilliant, right? And that's how you kind of, because it's realistic, Slimming World. It's not you crash diet and you focus on only that. You have to live. If you're not enjoying your life, what's the point? And I've had weeks where I've focused more on other things, like in terms of my eating, and been miserable.
Yeah.
And it's not really worked for me. And I had for ages. I went having no sins. Like I thought, the less sins you have, surely the better it works out for you. No, I think something in it. You have to have a few sins so your body hits your metabolism and be like, we've got to get rid of this stuff, and it works for other stuff. I don't know the science behind it. I almost don't want to because it doesn't seem to make sense, to be honest. Like I'm allowed. There's been weeks I've had more crisps or more Easter eggs,
Yeah.
and lost more weight.
So yeah, it's a good point. None of us are dietitians by training. Neither of us know a lot about nutrition. I picked up a little bit working in the gym. I've got a few questions I'll come back to later based on that previous bit of my life.
Yeah.
But as far as I understand it, there is a lot of dark art with regards to diets, and that's why there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But sticking with this theme of what you've done, I think the clear thing is that you're starting to put simple numbers against the cocktail of foods that you could have in your life, and then start to use that to diarise or regiment your intake and the balance of that intake. So what does it look like now after starting? So beforehand, you said you were fairly healthy, but you noticed that there was probably more of these sin type foods in your food than you thought. What's different now?
Basically, these things aren't in my home anymore. Like things like in your freezer, you would have a couple of frozen pizzas, maybe.
Yeah.
You'd have frozen chips in there. In your fridge, there's a huge argument about where you keep chocolate in the fridge. I did keep chocolate in the fridge, so my fridge would have a packet of M&Ms in it. And we're just out of spring, it would have a broken up Easter egg in there probably.
Oh yeah.
There'd maybe be, I mean, I'm quite into home cooking, but like an Uncle Ben's sauce jar in the cupboard, and things like that. They're just not here. I came home when we came out of Slimming World. Day one, obviously, you start something new. You start a new gym. You buy the gear. You start something. So we left Slimming World and went to Aldi, and we got frozen fruit, hundreds of it, right? Because frozen fruit's a massive thing. Right? I didn't know about it. But frozen pineapple, frozen berries. I wasn't into it at that time. Frozen peppers and onions. So you cut them up, they're chopped up, ready to go. Came home, put it all in my fridge, put it in my freezer, and refilled that bag. And this was just after Christmas, with all the chocolate and sweets in my house. And bear in mind, in my work, I'm a teacher. You get a lot of chocolate from kids and parents,
gifts,
which is lovely.
Yeah.
All of it went in the bag, and I gave some to my girlfriend, some to mum, and some to food banks because food banks don't get chocolate. So that all just left my house. Crisps, sweets, you name it, individual boxes of celebrations just went.
I have noticed that sort of thing myself before. It seems like you have to make the physical disconnection with these things for it to work, because you can say and try to be strict with eating certain things, but I still have those things in the house.
Yeah.
But then people will be people. You will slip.
If it's in your fridge,
and go back to old habits.
Like
but you've not allowed that to happen.
No, this actually comes from Arnold Schwarzenegger, who talked about if you're in the supermarket and you're buying tuna steaks, that's not what I eat, but it's what Arnie eats, obviously, to be him. If you're you pick up tuna steaks and you pick up Mars bars and you put them both in your fridge, you're going to eat both of them. If you only pick up tuna steaks, the only thing you can eat is tuna steaks. So you're going to eat tuna steaks.
Simple as that.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's not in my fridge.
Wow.
It just isn't. The most recent best change I had was peanut M&Ms. I just had a bowl of peanut M&Ms in my fridge. So we know in my fridge to get a drink, or you're getting your dinner out, a couple of them. Now it's a bowl of cherry tomatoes.
Really?
You open my fridge with a punnet of cherry tomatoes just sitting there, and that's what I throw in my mouth when I'm just eating. Fridge picking, but it's free.
How hard was that habit to form?
That one actually amazingly easy, because every time I go shopping, I went shopping, I go on holiday in a few days, so I didn't have to do a big shop the other day. I went in, and the first thing I picked up just flung cherry tomatoes in my basket. It's a part of what I do now. Every time I'm in a shop.
See, that surprises me.
Every time.
Because a lot of what you're talking about is breaking old habits and forming new ones, which I understand takes roughly 21 days.
Yeah.
Right, 3 weeks for the average person to break a habit or make a new one. That one sounded easy. And this process of going from 25 to 30-year-old Mark to new Slimming World Focus Mark.
Yeah.
What was hard? What did you find difficult, apart from the crisps? What almost, did any of it almost make you U-turn? Have you nearly fallen off the wagon for anything?
No, not nearly. I have fallen off. I've jumped off the wagon sometimes. Like, weekends are coming up and you know what's going to happen. The hardest one, it was a mentality that I actually realised. I'd say, let's use your 21-day thing as a rough idea. I would say 3 days in, I hit my first wall. 6 days in, I had a realisation and epiphany about it. 15 days, I fell off the wagon. 17 days, I was like, that's fine. 21 days, I'm done. And that was food line out in terms of in the staff room at work.
Yeah.
Or when you go to someone's house for coffee.
Yeah.
For example, there's a plate of biscuits up there.
I've had a few. Yeah.
I've not looked at it.
Yeah.
My staff room and work, there's always wee bits and bobs. You come in at playtime, and I'm sitting with my new mentality of my wee tub of frozen fruit, or like a peach and a nectarine or a banana.
Yeah.
And you sit there, and someone's brought in cakes for their birthday. Do you want a wee donut? Do you want a Krispy Kreme? Do you want this?
So easy.
So easy. Why wouldn't you? See these wee boxes of Millionaire shortbread or brownies or whatever. Yeah. It's like £1.50 for two or whatever, and they're sitting out in staff rooms or sitting out in your mum's house when you go round. They're sitting out, walking in, going, I'm making a conscious choice not to have that, and biting into my tangerine and pretending it's the same, right? That was tough at first because you're so used to doing it.
Yeah.
I had a bowl of crisps at a birthday party, and it was in fact, now that I say that, probably was that birthday party that was my epiphany moment. Was realising that I'd go to the staff room at playtime, and leave cakes out.
Yeah.
I kind of fancy one of the cakes. 10 minutes later, the bell rings. You walk out. My day isn't better or worse because I've had that cake. That hasn't changed me at all. And it was walking to the staff room and realising that didn't matter that I didn't have that. When I'm sitting there and I see it, I want it. But now that I'm gone, I'm not thinking about it.
That's interesting.
And then we went to my nephew's third birthday party, and obviously there was stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Right, there's
sins everywhere.
Sins, yeah, surrounded by it. I didn't have a thing all day. Even birthday cake. Because it was early enough in my journey that I was being conscious of it.
So you had that momentum.
Yeah, and my mum had put like a wee bowl of fruit or something for us, basically as a joke. But I had a wee couple of maybe like blueberries or whatever out of that. I didn't have any crisps, any brownies, any snacks, any sausage rolls. I'd had my lunch before I went, and it was like party was say 2 till 4.
Right.
Celebrated the cake, great. Walked away and was like, that also was fine. At the time I wanted it. My eyes were on all the sweets and watching folk eating them and thinking that's class, I might have that. If I was going to have something, I'd have that. If my sins for the day are in something, they're in that. But when I started Slimming World, I said, I'm not having any sins. They explained it to me and I thought, I am prepared. Basically, the reason I did it, I never realised this, was our friend's wedding, Paul's wedding. I was an usher.
This is what I was coming back to, so
I thought this was the reason I started.
It's good that you're coming to that without me asking, but to form it in a question, it's been clear in the conversation that there was a period between your mid-20s and early 30s, a period of about 5 years, partly supported by your sister, that you wanted to make this change. But what hadn't been clear to me until what I think you're about to articulate is, what was the moment that made you think this has to happen?
I didn't answer that question. I gave a spiel about other stuff, but no, you're right, you asked me why I did it, and I didn't answer that.
I think you told us the earlier part of that,
yes.
But I think with a lot of these things, there tends to be, there's the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Yes. There's a moment that you could remember. If I ask you for a moment, what was the thing that said this has to happen? Yeah,
you're right, and it probably, I would probably say the big thing would have been Paul's wedding. It was looking down and not always being happy with my body, I suppose, with my beer belly. I had a girlfriend now as well, so I was starting to take a bit better care of myself, to be honest. But I'd been with her for a year and a bit by that point, so it probably wasn't that, sorry. And it would have been, because it was very early I made the choice. I made the choice, say, in the summer, that at Christmas I would do it, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Paul had asked me to be an usher at his wedding, and I thought...
Which, for context, was
in April, April the 1st.
Yeah, so we were on the stag do in February, the wedding was in April.
Yes. So
this is 4 months into this new year, right?
yeah, so that was and basically I thought, do you know what, if I do Slimming World from Christmas to Paul's wedding, I can smash it. And I signed up for 4 months of misery.
Okay.
And I was fine with that. I think it was 3, it must have been early then, January, February, March, it was March time. I openly was like, do you know what, 6 years of jollity has got me to here, or 10 years of jollity got me to here, I am willing to have 3 months of misery. And that was my mentality, which is a very negative attitude. And when I said that to Claire, who runs my group, she was like, that's not what your mentality should be.
Right.
You don't want to be miserable. I was like, no, I know that, but I'm going to hammer this at the start and be miserable. But I'm signing up for that, and I know I'm signing up for that. So when I was at this first birthday party, I was miserable by choice. So I wasn't actually miserable. I wasn't in a
You were aware.
funk. It was my choice. I was choosing to this, and I was fine with it. Right, I wasn't acting miserably, but inwardly I was starving for brownies. But I knew this is what I had to do, and I knew it wasn't long term. I knew this wasn't my life choice, and I was fine with it. So it was getting to that and realising my life is the same without those things, and I can ignore them. And then shortly after that, I thought, when I started eating sins, so I'll get more into the weight loss program of it, but basically I wasn't eating sins and wasn't having massive weight losses. Like I was losing half a pound or a pound a week, and I thought, I mean, I'm doing everything else proper. And I had a week where I'll try sins. I'll try and do my 15 sins. Now, as a guy, you're allowed 25 sins. As a woman, you're allowed 15. But in my head, I was like, I'm not going to allow myself that leeway. If I give myself that 25-cent leeway, I can have a Big Mac every day. Mm-hmm. A Big Mac is 25 cents, right?
On its own. Right.
So I could have that every day and still do Slimming World. If I give myself the leeway of 25, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So I rarely have my 15. I'm probably between 5 to 15.
Right.
More often about the 10 mark, probably, to safely say that. I rarely have my actual 15, but I thought I'm going to try it 1 week, and I did it. And I had sins that week, and I lost the same that I'd been losing anyway. So I started going, sack this for the game of soldiers. I'm going to have my sins.
Yeah.
And do Slimming World properly. And that was probably about a month in I did that. And then one day in the staff room, there were wee cakes out. And on the Slimming World app, you can check the sin value of individual items.
Uh-huh.
So you type in Sainsbury's brownie multi-pack, and it will say 6 sins each, 9 sins per 100 grams, whatever, right? So there's a couple of girls in work who do Slimming World, so we're all kind of involved in the chat. And someone brought in cakes. We're like, what do you reckon that is? You have a bit of a chat about what you reckon it's going to be. Whip out the app, 6 sins. And I was like, do you know what? I'll spend 6 of my sins on that. It's almost like a budget in your head. I'll spend 6 sins on that. And I had it, turned to the girls and went, that wasn't worth it. Just wasn't worth it at all.
So there's 2 things I hear in that. One is what we mentioned earlier. You've got this jigsaw puzzle that's immersed in your head, but more generally it's simply an awareness, a mindfulness, if you like, of what's in front of you and what you're about to eat, rather than just going for that moment of pleasure. Because that's the other thing I think about, is that old saying, like, a moment on the lips, lifetime on the hips.
Yeah, I was thinking
and it's that because most people presumably don't get past the moment that they're acting for, that moment of pleasure, the taste, the sugar rush. Whereas what I'm hearing from you is you've managed to get slightly beyond that, so that you're not thinking about the moment, you're thinking about the 5 or 10 minutes after that moment.
Yeah.
And as you put it, the fact that things aren't really changing for you, that moment isn't really worth it.
No, not at all. And that was the moment within the 21 days, theoretically, it was probably my month into it, that I was like, it's not worth it. So then you start saving your things for when it's worth it. And you start making every sin count. So
when is it worth it?
So for the best example is that for the first 6 weeks, you do a food diary. That you fill in everything you consume, and at the end of the week, when you go back to group, you hand it to your consultant.
Yeah. And
she basically she'll read it over, and she'll maybe drop you a text later in the week, just for some encouragement. And so I see you're doing a lot of this. Have you tried doing this? And my sister got the text from Claire that said, "You're doing really well. I love to see that you're including chocolate in your diet," because my sister's a kind of typical chocoholic, as you would say. If you say to Siobhan, what's a crunchy? She'll say 9 cents. She can tell you the sin value of all the dairy milks.
Wow, so you learn this stuff. Yeah.
Because that's what matters to her. Spring was rough on her because Easter eggs are her favourite chocolate. Yeah. An Easter egg, a large Easter egg, right? See if you get like a Maltesers one that's got like 2 bags of Maltesers in the Easter egg.
That's the one I get every year.
Right? So, if you were to guess, and you don't know much about this at all, how many sins in that Easter egg? Not just the egg itself.
Just the egg, so not the sweets around it. 5?
54. 54 sins in a large Easter egg.
5, 4, 54 in a single Easter egg.
Yes.
Which, so I was coming at that thinking, if I melted that down and reformed it into a normal chocolate bar, it's probably quite small, but it's not.
Yeah. Be like a thin
It's
dairy milk.
50. So well, let's put that in that form then. So what is a standard 6-segment chocolate bar? How many sins would that be?
Probably between. My rule of thumb is everything's 6, because then you can't have more than 2 events in a day. But I would say like a dairy milk, like a crunchy is 9. So let's say between 8 and 12. Let's call it 10. Let's just call a dairy milk.
Yeah. So if it's roughly 10, that one Easter egg is at minimum 5 times what a normal chocolate bar is.
And that's, I guess, because of the oils they have to
That's
use.
2 times a Big Mac. So like, now you're making, in this short chat, you're changing my perspective.
And this is where I'm saying I don't get the science of it. And you're a scientist, and I'm saying this. I don't understand the rules. And it's the types of fats, chocolates, and oils in there, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And it's some high hegemon or slimming world has assigned these things, right? Based on whatever's. A really good example is Muller Light yogurts used to be free, right? And if it's free, you can have as many as you want because there's no sins in it. But people were relying on them so much and still not losing weight, so they assigned a sin value to it. So now a Muller Light yogurt is 1 sin. Because that's 1 sin, people are less inclined to have them. But for years they were free, but because folk were relying on them, they changed it. So the sin value of things like Heinz soups were recently revamped. They used to be 15 cents a tin for Heinz soup. It's now 4 or 5. Because they're constantly looking at things and looking at the ingredients. Recipes are changing, and the effects these things have on your body. Because you could have 3 tins of Heinz soup, or you can have that one Easter egg. That Easter egg is worse for you because it's chocolate and stuff like that.
That scares me.
So I don't think about that. I don't think about the hows and whys. If they tell me it's 54, it's 54.
Yeah, so there's a trust element that the people behind the scenes here have.
Yeah, you think of a small Easter egg like the Milky Bar one you bought for your niece or nephew, right? Half of that Easter egg, 9 sins.
Half of a kid's Easter egg is more than a single chocolate bar.
You think about Easter when you get one of those, right, which is 2 halves, so that's 18, plus the wee Milky buttons you get with it, right?
I'll tell you where I'm at. I am like your sister. I love Easter egg chocolate. I love putting it in the fridge. I love the shape of it. I love that when you break it, it makes a noise, a satisfying snap. You can see the contours of the cracks as they form when you break it, and then the texture of that in your mouth, it's got a stronger crunch to it because of the shape and thinness of the chocolate more than a normal chocolate bar. I would easily eat 2 eggs like that at Easter within a week. And now with the way that you're telling me, I've easily consumed 5 Big Macs in a week without knowing it, which has flipped things in my mind very quickly.
Yeah, totally, and that's it, and it's without knowing it, and that's all it is. It's just thinking about it. So I then looked at Easter eggs, and I mean we're sitting here in June.
Yes, and it's a warm June.
There's an Easter egg over there that's been sitting there since start of April. See behind that thank you card there? You can't now see there's a...
Oh yeah, oh wow.
Beside that there's a 12-pack of cream eggs.
So man, that would have been vaporised in March if that was...
And there were more Easter eggs there, but I would, we used to go to a friend's house to watch Game of Thrones on a Monday night. I took an Easter egg round every week and left it there. So I didn't eat it.
And it was like that time when you filled up the empty bag with all the chocolate and got rid of it.
Get out of the house.
You got those Easter eggs, those collections of Big Macs out the house.
If I have food or cake for anything, if some people come round, for example today, and I put out a plate of biscuits or things like that, and they're not eating a plate of cakes or something, I will take it into work and leave it in the staff room for other folk to eat. Which makes them fat, but it gets it away from me. And it's the whole temptation. I can resist anything but temptation. If it's not here.
I can resist anything but temptation, that's awesome.
And then other workarounds, like so Slimming World have what are called hi-fi bars,
I've come across it.
which are on that wee plate of biscuits over there.
Yeah.
So see if I do get hungry and I want to go to that plate of biscuits, I'll ignore the this is Butterworth cookies because there are hi-fi bars there, which are 3 cents each.
How much is the cookie?
Probably 8.
So when you look at that plate, you see a 3 and an 8.
Yeah.
And then it's a very simple decision.
And then life gets better, right? As we delve into Slim World more, because on top of, so you at Slim World you go along to group, right? And you get the new members chat. So say it starts at 7:30. The consultant sits and talks to all the new members who have come along for the night, / to join, and she talks you through everything. You get your wee pack, which I can show you later, and your wee book of all this information. It's all laid out very well, and it's great. Excuse me, but she talks about all the things you can and can't have. There's nothing you can't have on Slimming World. Nothing you can't have.
Right. That was the attraction of it. Right?
Yeah, it's how you choose to spend the things you shouldn't have. And it's you're allowed 15 cents, I'm allowed 25, say. So I can have a Big Mac if I want. I just have to choose that's what I spend my cents on that day or whatever, right? And one thing, and this is January, right? So you've just had Christmas and New Year, a lot of family time, and a ton of cheese boards. And they say to you, day one, cheese is out.
Cheese must be...
Cheese is a goner.
That's not in the 50s, man. That must be higher.
Cheese is ridiculous. But in Slimming World, as well as you've got your free foods, speed foods, sins, and your healthy extras, right? And these are your wee caveats. These are your lifesavers, your healthy extras, right? You're allowed your healthy extra A. You're allowed 2 healthy extra A choices and 1 B choice.
What's a healthy extra?
A's are essentially calcium-based dairy products.
Ah.
Okay, so you're allowed, if you use your milk for that, obviously these things have sin values, but for the sake of your own humanity and body, you should still have them. So the example I use is Baby Bells, because I quite like a Baby Bell. I love cheese, I like a Baby Bell. 2 Baby Bells, or say 1 Baby Bell is, say, 3 cents, right? But you're allowed 2 Baby Bells as your healthy extra, as a healthy extra A choice, because of the positive things in it. So they don't count as sins. They don't count. That's not 6 sins. That's your healthy extra A.
Yeah.
Right. But 3 Baby Bell Lights are also a healthy extra A. So I can have that. Late at night, I'm having say chips, and I want to make it chips and cheese. I can use 30 grams of cheddar, and that's a healthy extra A choice. I can use 40 grams of light cheddar, and that's my healthy extra choice.
Ah, okay.
So all the cheeses I'm buying are low-fat cheeses and things like that, because I'm allowed 10 grams more of it. And you're allowed 2 of those a day.
So you're recognising that in those sorts of cheeses. So me as a scientist, a chemist, I'm seeing all these things. These are all cocktails of different chemicals. And within those cheeses you're talking about, these are healthy extras because there's stuff in that cocktail of the cheese that's good for you. And you're not getting rid of it, but you're substituting what kind of cheese and how much of it. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
So basically I, years ago, started drinking coffee with sugar because I was going into different schools on placements and getting offered tea and coffee, and it was rude to say no. I really don't like tea, but coffee with plenty of sugar and milk made it drinkable. Yeah. And as I've grown over it, I've weaned myself down to milk and 1 sugar. That's what I drink in coffee. The day I came back from Group 1 of Slimming World, I drank black coffee.
That's what I was going to say. You're drinking black coffee right now. I have mine with milk.
You were coming around, I had to text you and say, "Did you take milk with your coffee?" so I could go and buy milk. I don't have milk. I don't drink enough coffee, really. Yeah. But
so you don't eat cereal and things like that?
Nah, I haven't for years anyway, really. Yeah. I've been away from milk for a long time, to be honest with you, but I still drank coffee with milk. The morning after Slimworld, I had a coffee. Or someone offered me a coffee, say, and I took nothing in it because I can't. Sugar's a definite no, obviously. But milk's out. I'm not going to throw away a milk choice, a healthy choice on milk, when I can have cheese later that day. No chance.
No contest.
Yeah, and it's those sort of bizarre choices.
Wow. So I mentioned earlier, because there's another big part to this story I think is really important to mention whenever you're talking about diet. And this is what I think about from my time working in the gym.
Yes.
As I mentioned briefly earlier. Now, when I was working in the gym, you did have to know a little bit about nutrition. And having a balanced diet and all the different food groups, like, fats and carbohydrates, and proteins and minerals and all of that. But it was always, always, always discussed as a balance between the diet itself and the lifestyle and exercise that you were living. I think that's on point, and the thing that you mentioned earlier which made me think of that was you went from one form of free foods and sins to another and found that you were still losing weight at the same sort of rate, same number of pounds per week. Where that comes into the gym is a lot of people would come to me and others in the gym and get really confused that they would go on a diet, they would lose a little bit of weight, then it would level off, and sometimes counterintuitively they would end up putting weight back on. And what people didn't realise is that when you're changing your diet, if you do so quite dramatically, your resting metabolism will plummet to the floor. So that as soon as you start to eat more again, if you fall off the wagon or you have a little bit of extra, that resting metabolism isn't burning things as fast. You're laying down more fat, you're putting on more weight. And it's because people weren't having the right balance of a decent diet with genuine exercise. So coming back to you, you've had this revelation of Slimming World. What are you doing for exercise?
So this is not a positive story. Similar, there's a thing called Body Magic in Slimming World where you get points for doing exercise. But in discussion with my girlfriend talking about Body Magic, she was like, Body Magic? Sounds like shagging.
Certainly does.
Every time someone mentions Body Magic, in my head I think, sure, they've been shagging, right? Which is, they've been going to the gym. No, they've not. They've been shagging.
It's all calorie burning, right?
And it's been raised in group as well that, like, if you're doing that, it is body magic, it is sex exercise as it used to be called. Don't know by who. But I was like, I'm doing this new diet programme. I'm going to start running as well. That'll keep me health and fitness. So I was cycling, and I started, I more cycled quite a bit. I tried to do about half an hour every couple of days. And my weight losses were about £0.5 pound a week, which in my head, I've only got 3 months and I've got this target to achieve of about 1.5 stone is what I was looking to lose in that 3 month span. £0.5 pound a week's no good. And I actually took it as, I am not overweight enough that running is taking weight off me. It's actually building muscle.
Yeah, of course.
And that muscle famously weighs heavier than fat, and it's actually levelling out my losses and not helping me right now exercise, which I don't know if that's true. I didn't get too sciencey into it, but that was my mentality.
Yeah, so that was the other thing that I think used to confuse people when I was working in the gym, and still does. So that was where I would probably still take issue of having your weight, solely your body mass as the only measure of getting healthier. Because if you're doing a diet to lose fat, let's say, plus exercise, which will ultimately gain muscle, these are two things working in opposite directions.
Exactly.
And whilst you might be looking for the line to go down, your weight to go down, that's going to be countered by muscle going on, which isn't a bad thing. And for running, it's not just that, it's not just the muscles in your legs, let's say, getting stronger. Your bone is getting denser. Like you're pounding your legs into the ground, so your body is going to trigger putting more of that calcium-based mineral down to make your bones
Healthy
thicker.
we call it.
There you go. It's by calcium-based food, it's a healthy A.
Yeah.
So I think people struggle with that, and even like in my world of science, it's a very difficult thing for people to think about more than one parameter at a time.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to think about weight going down. It's not so easy to think about weight going down whilst muscle is going up. And the final point on that, before getting back to your perspective on it, is it's not so much that muscle weighs more than fat, it's muscle's denser.
Yeah.
So if you've got the exact same size, exact same cube of fat versus muscle, if you put them both on a balance, then the muscle would weigh more because it's got more stuff inside the same space.
Yeah.
So how do you cope with that sort of mentality? You're clearly aware that you could be putting muscle on, but what are you thinking in terms of slimming world and these goals that you have of getting weight down?
So the mentality I went in with, which is very basic, is I wasn't doing Weight Watchers, I was doing Slimming World.
Okay.
I wasn't going, I don't know what weight I am. I've never known. Every week you go to Slimming World, right, and you stand on scales, and a wee person marks in your book how much you've lost and what you are now, right? Every week I stand there with my sister, scales are here, I look in my book, look at what number I was last week, stand on and do the subtraction, or go, that number's smaller than that.
Right.
I step off the scales and forget, right? And it's not like I'm trying to do that. I just have no idea what weight I am. When folk ask me what height I am, I say 5'8". I have no idea. I think I'm 5'8", right? I don't know what weight I am. I don't know what height I am. I don't know, right? I went for a suit fitting in December for this wedding, and I got measured, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know what measurements were, but my mentality was when I go back to check it, they need to change it.
It's down.
That was my aim.
Right.
Was going back for the second fitting and them having to change something. As I was going through it, one point I realised the jeans that I was wearing needed a belt, and I'm now at a point every single one pair of my work trousers needs a belt. I wear the same belt every day. I have to, and that wasn't the case. I had one or two that needed a belt, not like wore a belt for fashion.
Yeah.
They need a belt.
So what waist size did you buy?
I don't know. I don't sure. This is it. Like I think they were 32 to 34s. And so somewhere in that scale,
yes,
I'm smaller than that now.
Wow, okay.
But I recently bought shorts for going on holiday. I bought 30s.
Really?
And
wow.
They were far too tight. So I guess I'm like 31 or 32
so
now.
Probably a 32. 'Cause
Um,
that's what I think about as well. Like I for a very long time was flat on 32.
Yeah.
And I noticed as I got older, I'm between like a 34 and a 36. Although I don't notice many things changing or even weight changing a lot. Those things to do with fashion you notice because there's the hard number on them.
Yeah, and that's basically my big tell. This is what my sister started calling them, or I admit this might be the real name, a non-scale victory, an NSV, which is you're getting a further notch in your belt or a jacket that didn't used to fit, or when we when we actually went for the fitting, the guy put the jacket on me and said, "What size was this?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
Something 38 or whatever. I don't know if that's a good size. I don't know if that's a jacket size. So let's say 38, right?
Probably 38. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm a 40.
But the guy put it on me and he went, "What were you?" Blah blah blah. And he went, "Nah," and went away and had to get a new jacket. Not take that one down. He had to get a different jacket for me than one I put on months before, right?
So it was this change was so big that it couldn't be tailored. It had to be a different jacket,
new
different
jacket
starting
size.
point.
So literally, he put it on me and he went, "Right, blah blah blah," and he walked away. And I just turned to Ross and I went, "Well, it's worked. I don't care." That was me. As far as like I didn't totally, but in that moment I mentally checked out at Slimming World. It had done what I wanted it to do. I had decided in the previous summer when Paul asked me to be his usher, I'm going to lose weight for this. I had lost the weight I had to lose.
So when you said you've checked out, I think it's probably easy to say that as like I've done with it, I'm not doing it anymore. But what I'm really hearing is I've been there for long enough that those habits are there to stay.
Yeah, I'd passed my driving test basically. Like
That's a good way of doing it.
I'd been learning how to do this thing, and I had done it. I would continue to do it to a degree, but I'd got to that point and then went down and got shirts done. And the girl measured her shirts, and I'm 15 and a half because that's what I am. And she basically put the tape measure around us, and Ross, because I mean Ross is much fitter than I. He's pure washboard stomach, I believe, to be honest with you. Not that I've seen it in a good while. But he's he's a gym going
Fit
fit
policeman.
guy. Fit, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm a 15, but I like a bit of space, so 15 and a half. And the girl measured me, and she was like, 15. And I was like, have it, yes, 15. Because I haven't worn 15 and a half for years. So the option, she put a 15 on me, and it wasn't tight.
Wow.
And I was like, it was snug,
Uh-huh.
but I had the option to wear a shirt size smaller than I've been wearing for 10 years. I'm having that smaller shirt.
That's another non-scale victory right there.
Yeah, totally. And that was it for me. Because when I joined, I was, I don't know, I'm not even going to give it a number, right? 11 stone something, right? But
Yeah.
I was something. No, it wasn't. I was just under 12. I was
Okay.
right. Because in my head, I was 10 or 11 stone, and then I jumped in the scales, and I was like, holy crap, that's not what I thought it was, because I have no idea.
Yeah.
So every week I check my book and go back. But so you have a target weight to go for. That's how Slim World works, right? you go in, you get weighed, and you get a target weight, and that's what you're building towards constantly. When you become a target member, you no longer pay, right? That's the kind of the goal.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a £5 a week, but once you're at target, you don't have to pay anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the target for everyone. That number wasn't my target. My number was arbitrarily made up. When she said, "What do you want to be?" and I said, "Thinner," and you're not getting me. So I just gave a number. I literally looked at that number and thought, "What's a big enough, smaller number than that
Yeah.
that's reasonable?" and gave that, right? So say these are numbers that I think are. So say I was 11, 13, right? It's 14 pounds and I still, right? So say I was 11, 13. I said, "Do you know what? Let's go for like 10 stone 7, right?"
Okay.
Is that okay? And she looked at me like, "Is that what you want to lose?" I was like, I want to get in a jacket. I don't know. Because that number meant nothing to me. That wasn't my target. The jacket was the fitting was my target. So that day I achieved my target as far as I was concerned. Right?
Yeah.
I was quite chuffed with myself. And then got to Slim World and they're like, "So many pounds to target?" I was like, "Yeah, you don't really care about my jacket." But they did. And
Yeah.
it was nice. So that was my mentality as I went through it, was having to get into that jacket. But after the wedding, I still went to Slim World. Because I still had my actual target to get to.
Yes.
But by that point, I was in it to win it.
So, summarising that, then I started this by assuming it takes someone about 3 weeks to form a new habit.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things changed for you overnight. Some of it was more of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you had got from the beginning to that point where you, as you said, wanted to check out of Slimming World, how long had that been?
Probably 2 months.
2 months, okay.
I would say about when that first fitting, or when the second fitting came round.
So about 8 weeks.
Yeah. And that was, I'd done what I want, at that point, what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And by that point, we had the stag do as well. Because the issue was, I was building up to all this, knowing that I was going drinking for 4 days.
Yeah.
I hadn't drank at all through January, February.
Wow.
Because the sin value is ridiculous. Like a pint, again, is 9 cents or something like that. Probably more depending on the beer.
It's blowing my mind.
And when you go to the pub, no one goes for 1 pint. So I couldn't go to the pub without going
Not
on
in
my sins
Scotland.
or having a cake or chocolate that day.
Yeah.
So I basically knew that I had to hammer it because at one point I was going to the middle of nowhere to drink for 4 days with boys. And that week I knew I was going to put on. And basically, so the way your work group works, probably should explain this earlier on, you go along and you weigh in and you go up, or you can go up, you can maintain, or you can gain, or you can lose, sorry, that's the options obviously. So you pay your money, you get weighed. And then you go through what's called image therapy, because these things all have names. And it's sitting and going round group and saying, "Oh, Margaret's here tonight, Margaret lost £2 this week," we all clap. And they do a pure points game thing, which is really, really irritating, but they do it and it's a part of what
I guess
happens.
it works for some people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's basically to build group mentality.
Okay.
Everyone's like, "I don't want to be a points keeper, I can't be bothered with this." But then you kind of get more and more into it as you get more comfortable. Because me and Mr. used to only talk to each other. Now we have people we talk to at group. It's just the way you join a new group. You build, there's a community kind of thing. And you sit and you talk through. So say she was like, "Oh, Mark lost £2 this week. 200 points for your team. What worked well for you this week? So what have you done this week? What recipes have you had? What things have done well? Is anything not worked for you this week? what challenges do you see coming up next week?
Yeah.
And what do you want to lose next week? So 1 week I sat and said, it's the stag, it's the whole thing. By this point they knew about the wedding, they knew my goal was the suit size for midget. I think I was like, the stag's this weekend, so I was like, I'll be eating rubbish and drinking, and I know I am.
Yeah.
And they don't judge you for it. Like, if you say, I mean, I'll have maybe some pizzas, but I'm not really sure I want to. I'm sitting going, I'm going to put on this week, and I'm fine with that. Like, that's, as long as you're comfortable in your choice, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I think saying this, I mean, so that was, I got a group on a Tuesday at this point I was going, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I ate perfectly well. Walked out of that house for the stag, and there was a pint and a bag of M&Ms, and I scoffed. Me and Ross had done the big shop online. I ate the bag of M&Ms in the kitchen. No one got a chance at them. No one knew they were there. He was making pizzas nasty. I didn't care, because I was free.
All the sins you could ever want.
But then in the morning I got up and I had bacon and eggs,
right,
and a black coffee, and my breakfast was free because bacon and eggs are free. Cut the fat off your bacon, you're done.
So you had 1 day off it, and then
so in the morning I had a free thing.
Snapped back into it.
I had probably had a pizza for lunch, and then we had dinner.
Yeah.
Whatever we ate the rest of the week, and I drank obviously tons. The next morning I had a pizza for breakfast because I was too hungover and I didn't care anymore.
Me too.
And that's fine, yeah. And I went and say I gained £3 that week, and they were like, "How do you feel?" I was like, "Smashing." It was totally worth it.
Yes.
100% worth it. And then the next week I'd lost again. And you go up and down and you lose and you gain wee bits, and sometimes you go along and you've worked really hard that week and you lose nothing.
Back in the habit.
I went along 1 week and they were going around like, "Oh Mark, you've lost £0.5 this week, how do you feel?" I was like, "I'm raging. Absolutely raging." And it's like, your face is even telling me like,
why?
It's a loss. Why? I'd worked harder than that. I hadn't gone over my sins once. I had eaten perfectly. I had avoided birthday cakes or something, and all I lost was £0.5. What an absolute waste. And she's and that's and you sit there and it's quick because they come round to you and they say, "How do you feel?" Or like, "You lost £0.5 this week," and they go, "But I can tell by your face how you feel." I was like, "No, it wasn't worth it. I'm gutted. I'm absolutely gutted." And it happens. Some people maintain it and they're like, "I worked my arse off this week. I did loads of body magic. I did this. I did that. I avoided this. I went to a 21st and I drove so I wouldn't drink. It was like my partner's 21st and my husband's 40th, and I haven't. They got a chippy and I made this, and I've maintained what I've gained." And that happens as you gain and you
through gritted teeth.
Oh, and you're raging. And we have a girl who sat in the group and she was like, "I don't know what's happening." Her and her husband have had the exact same food all week because she cooks. He lost £2. She put on £1. And you're sitting here, you can't defend that. You can't.
Yeah.
You then learn the next week sometimes you lose 3.
Yeah, okay.
And it balances out over time. But you don't think about that.
Not in the moment.
Yeah, me and Siobhan have been along, and Siobhan's got an attitude now of she'd rather maintain than lose £0.5.
Yeah.
You'd rather just stay where you were. £0.5 is who.
That's like winning the silver medal, right? You were close to gold, but no cigar. But all of that, I can see the negativity in that, but bringing it together, that's the jigsaw-like puzzle of spotting the numbers of sins and free foods and looking at all food like that, plus having someone to go with, plus having the accountability and reporting back to a group that puts that sort of gritted teeth hatred of £0.5 loss in you.
Mm-hmm.
But this brings me ultimately to my last question, because those all sound like good things to create these new habits of eating in new ways and living a more balanced, healthier lifestyle. This is my last question. 31-year-old Mark has now done it. Looking back at 25-year-old Mark, do you notice a difference in your mental state or your mental health?
That is a good question. I would say yes, but I don't know if I could put it down to Slimming World. I would say, I mean, just in life, I'm in a very, very different place. I would say it's helped my attitude towards food in a massive way.
Yeah.
In a mental situation, like mentally, I drink. This is where science makes no sense. Iron Brew and Coke are definitely out, obviously. Diet Iron Brew and Diet Coke are free.
Right, okay.
No sins at all.
Uh-huh.
So I eat a lot of, I drink a lot of Diet Iron Brew, a lot of Diet Coke. For a while after the stag do, I came up from the stag do after that breakfast and was like, I can have eggs and bacon and a pot of coffee every morning, it's free. And I do. Every morning I have eggs and bacon for breakfast.
Right.
And it's great. I feel like I'm living like a
Yeah.
king. Like every day's Saturday. And I'll sit and I'll get a plate, throw spinach and rocket on it, because they're speed.
Yeah.
And the speed for your food, you're basically your fruit and veg would speed up your metabolism. And I'll fry a couple of eggs and fry light, so it's free. Grill some medallion bacons, because there's no fat on them. And I'll sit and read my book and have a pot of coffee. Have a nice wee start to my day. And it's a more positive start to my day. I'd also changed jobs in that kind of space of time, and
Right.
I've taken a total decision in I'm going to like care more about my life outside work.
Yeah.
And take my time over things and just relax more.
So it's definitely sounds like it's been part of a bigger
It's been
picture.
part of, I would say more than, I couldn't attribute a more positive outlook on life to Slimming World,
Yeah.
but it's been a huge part of it,
Yeah.
because every meal that I cook, if I go out for dinner, I'll look at the menu in advance and pick things. I'll make my girlfriend make things and she'll do Slim Wally recipes for me and stuff like that now.
Yeah.
And the point I was going for with the Diet Coke and Diet Brew is I'll drink them all the time now, but I'm aware of their caffeine content, and I'm more aware and interested in what caffeine does to humans now. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need coffee in the morning. I never drank coffee. I don't want to get into that loop of needing coffee to start my day. But I'm super aware of, like, if I'm sitting at 9 o'clock at night and I say, we'll have an Iron Brew, no. Why would I put caffeine into my body? Because I know caffeine, especially in Diet Coke,
Before you
caffeine's
sleep.
there instead of the sugar. Yeah, and it's the wee going to the fridge and having fruit loads, like just having tubs of berries around, having a tub of yogurt. Yogurt's free. It's, so I'll have a tub of yogurt with berries slung in it as a sort of dessert or as a snack. I'm more positive about food, like with food optimising. To celebrate, I achieved my target 2 weeks ago. To celebrate, I went and got a McDonald's.
You had 25 cents.
I had 25
Nice.
cents, and that was the burger alone, never mind the chips I had with it. And I'm more aware of what's going on. I'm happy with my choices. And then I had a massive gain, but you can once you get to target, you can go £3 up or down and still be called a target member and still not pay.
Yeah.
The week after I got to target, and I actually went under on my target. I was £2 under.
Okay.
When I got my target one, which was amazing, I was so chuffed with myself.
You can see it.
And then when I went back the next week, I'd put on £4 because I'd been celebrating getting to target. And so I was half a pound away from being out of the target range. And then I needed to be back at target in my head for going to Vegas. I'm going on holiday. I can't afford to be so close to the top end of my target. But I know 100% I'm going to America.
Yeah.
Food over there is ridiculous. I am currently back on my exact target weight. When I go to group a week on Thursday when I come back, I will be massively beyond my target. I'm fairly certain no matter what I do, the week after that I'll have to pay.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have to take 2 or 3 weeks to get back down to my target. But now I can do it. Before, you have your moments where you can do things called SP, where you only have speed and protein.
Uh-huh.
You have far less sins and not even free foods. Like, a lot of grapes are free, right? But tomatoes are speed.
Yeah.
Berries are all speed, but bananas are free but not speed. So I'd have days where I can only have speed or protein, which takes out pasta and rice, which are massive things in Slim World because you're allowed as much of that as you want, but not on SP days. So I was hammering these. I was having chickpeas instead of rice, not a substitute, right? They're gubbins, right? I've discovered a lot of new foods. That's one thing I've discovered, a lot of new foods, and I've discovered a lot of them are crap. Spinach I've discovered is amazing. Doesn't taste like much, but it's speed.
Uh-huh.
Every meal I have, you might have a speed's a third of your plate. Every single meal I have is spinach, and it's homemade.
Nice.
So it's homemade spinach curry. Sometimes I'm just having something and I'll throw spinach under what I'm eating.
Uh-huh.
Every meal, I'm gonna get slagged in group for it because every time they're saying, "What could you do with this?" We're gonna have
Popeye
focus on
over
this.
here.
I'm sitting flinching spinach at it. Why not? It's not going to do any harm. So wee things like that have made changes, and I know I'm going to go. I hammered it when I was so close to target.
Yeah.
And didn't get there. I lost 1.5 pounds when I needed 2, so I was half a pound away from target. And like, but I went along to a group and the girl who takes your weight was raging and gutted for me. She was like, I was thinking of you all day today, thinking this is that he's going to get his target today, and I didn't. He
group.
didn't. And I was sad. And then I was like, not going to the same group the next week. I had to go to a different one, and I was like, I feel bad that I'm going to go to this place and get my target, and Laura won't be there.
Yeah, to feel good for you.
It wasn't even like I'll be gutted if I don't get my target this week, because I was half a pound away, and I was bang on perfect. I was so good all week.
Not for you.
I have to get my target this week, but it's not about that anymore. It's about getting Laura to hear about it, kind of thing.
There's been so much in this. When you first mentioned talking about Slimming World, there was a natural scepticism in me because it was not something that was ever close to anything we would speak about before.
No.
But there's been things like having moments of reflection on yourself, having someone to do this with, a group to report to, ways of putting numbers against things, and realising that this is ultimately one way of giving you more mindfulness and control in one part of your life that sounds like it's been a big part of a bigger picture, where ultimately you're in a better place now than where you were before. And I think a lot of people will take a lot away from that. I'm certainly taking away fear of Easter eggs. And really an unexpected desire to try this out for myself. So thanks for that.
No, I mean, even it's only just hit me now that you've said it in that way. When you're talking about the whole mental health aspect, I hadn't realised it, but realistically, and I don't know what it was you said there that pinged this in my head, every week I have the chance to achieve something. Like, see if you're learning to drive or going to the gym, you don't notice the difference. It's in the more you're lifting or the more, you don't notice it unless someone points it out to you, sort of thing. Every week I go along and someone gives me a round of applause for doing something. Or if I don't do it, they sympathise and are gutted with me. And I hadn't realised that, and even in my head till I've said this word, every week is an achievement. I have a book that marks
and you see
6 months now of achievements that I've done, of me losing, and my fuck-ups, excuse my French, like, and the week where I lost £3 and was so proud of myself that I got a Pizza Hut that night and ate 100 sins in one night and put on £3 the next week. Like, so to celebrate doing well, I put it all back on. I have that marked somewhere, and I have the weeks where I lost £0.5 and was raging, and I have the weeks where I lost £5 because I pure smashed it, right? Every week I've achieved something. Every week I've thought, well done, Anne, you've lost £2 again. Or every week I've went, well done, Siobhan, we've done this together.
That's amazing.
And things like that. Like, I have people who are proud of me for something that has nothing to do with them. And so without thinking about it, because I'm super aware of my mental health clearly, I probably am weekly happier a tiny bit because I've achieved something, so it's been worth it for that.
And that's really where I want to finish this, because that final point you've made has made me remember something I heard from a psychologist called Jordan Peterson, which many people may know. But he said something that stuck with me, which is humans, having been hunter-gatherers, are built towards an aim. All of us are always happier when you've got something to aim for. You've had the wedding, you've got your holiday. I hope people listening to this are thinking about what their aim is, so that they're always going on. And that's what I'm thinking about now. I'm leaving episode 4 here thinking, what's the next thing I want to aim for? And what could I do, Slimming World or otherwise, to get me there and make me happier?
Excellent, well there you go.
Thanks, Mark.
Worthwhile, not at all, thank you very much, it's been a pleasure.
Real pleasure. Cheers.